welcome back to the Illuminations Media Network. This is Tamara Tayesu, your host, and I'm so excited that you are joining us today for Soul Sounds, where we interview artists to express their unique creativity and melodic vibrations in the key of soul. Well, today our Soul Sounds artist is poet LaPria McIntyre. Welcome back. We spoke with LaPria a little while ago about her wonderful credit and healing and educational program. But today we are going to be learning more about her creative side. So welcome back to the show, LaPria.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me again.
You are such a pleasure to speak with, such a very empowering and inspiring young woman. I'm just so grateful that you're joining us here. So how about let's get started in learning about when you became a poet. When was that?
Oh, wow, that's a really good question. That's a really good question. Honestly, I've been writing since as long as I can remember, probably right around 8 to 9 years old. I think I can remember writing. I don't think, that I knew at that time that I was a poet. I thought I was going to be like a famous rapper. I wanted to be a rapper when I was that age. And it wasn't until probably around the time that I got into high school that I actually realized that I was a poet, and I started writing poems and things like that. And then I started actually performing closer to the age of like 17, 18.
Wow. So if we go back to when you were 8 or 9, a sweet little girl and probably pigtails, can you remember what that first poem was about?
Oh, geez. No, I can't. It's so funny because the people around me, they seem to remember. I was just with one of my friends the other day, and she remembered so much of my stuff word for word from when we were little, and I couldn't believe it. It's kind of embarrassing, you know what I mean? Because when you're that little, when you're that young, you don't know what you're talking about. Obviously I was creative. I was still just as creative then. But it's a little weird to kind of go back and listen to some of that stuff. So I don't remember it, but like I said, a lot of my friends and family, they do, and they think it's kind of funny.
Right. What better way to chronologize, what was happening in your heart at that time?
Right.
You did mention earlier that you aspired to be a rapper. So what were some of the things that you thought that you wanted to rap about at that age, if you can think of that?
Oh my gosh, I rapped about boys, of course, at that age. At that age, there wasn't much that I could really talk about, other than boys. I thought I was really fly, really cute. So I definitely remember talking a lot about boys. And, I'm from Long Beach, California, and there's a rapper, Snoop Dogg, that's from California, from Long Beach, California as well. And when he came onto the scene, he was my favorite rapper. Oh, my God, I loved him. I used to go and get a pen and a paper and record all his songs when they came on the radio. And then I would go and write all the lyrics down to all his songs. I learned all his songs, and he was absolutely my favorite. And I wanted to be just like him when I grew up. I swear I did. But, yeah, you think about being famous. You think about being on TV and stuff like that. So, of course, at that age, I really, really thought that I would grow up and really be famous as a rapper.
Sure. Girl, Snoop Dogg, that's my nizzle.
I know, right?
Oh, yes. He's made quite a change, Snoop Lion, and he's focusing on a lot of positivity, and I really love the adjustment. He's really mellowing.
Yeah, I like the adjustment too, but I miss the old Snoop, from when I was a little girl, and I really wish he would come back. But he's still my favorite. Definitely still one of my favorites.
Well, I have a feeling he will come back with it. I know a lot of people are really looking for that,
Oh yeah.
and probably going to demand it after a little while. It's
Oh
like, all
yeah,
right, Snoop.
definitely. Definitely.
Now, so you say that you've been writing for quite a long time, and you've named yourself Poetically Speaking. How did that name come about? Where did that come from?
Well, it actually came a little bit later as I had gotten older, probably around 19 years old, and that's when I started performing a lot. I was doing a lot of performing, going to a lot of shows and showcases, and everybody had a stage name, and I was like, well, I don't want to just go on the stage as Priya, or La Priya, and it took me a while to figure out what name I wanted to go by. And one day, I had actually prayed about it because I wanted something that would fit me. And one day it just came to me, Poetically Speaking, and I thought it made sense because um, when I am performing or writing, a lot of it is natural. You know what I mean? It's kind of like giving advice or speaking from a place of experience, just as if I would be talking to a close girlfriend of mine or something. So when you think of poetically speaking, you just think about how naturally, my words and everything flow together. So that's kind of like where it came from.
Beautiful. And so I'm just imagining, whenever someone describes something, you described that you were performing a great deal. And here you are at 19, and we're right in the midst of the rap music industry and the movement. You were right there in Long Beach. And what were some of those venues? I mean, where were you speaking, and what was that like to have a following?
Actually, it felt great, and I often, describe that feeling as something that is irreplaceable. Nothing comes as close to being on stage. It's an overwhelming joy. I often compare it to motherhood. Those in my life are the two things that are the most fulfilling. And, at that age, to have a lot of people, old and young, really, really like you and really follow you and actually relate. It was good, because I really did have a following. I guess you can kind of say fans who looked forward to hearing me perform. And during that period, my 19, early 20s, it was just all about, of course, you have your first love and stuff like that. So a lot of my stuff was more so about, relationships and kind of about how I viewed the world, at that age. So it was some really good stuff.
Beautiful. I wish that we had a clip to play. I mean, I'm really intrigued right now, to hear it. You have a beautiful voice, and I can imagine the cleverness that I can sense from you was just right there and on point.
Thank you.
Now, was this considered spoken word? Were you speaking over music, or how was it? How did it work?
Yeah, definitely spoken word. I had left the whole idea of becoming a rapper long, long before then. I no longer had the desire to want to be a rapper and transitioned into strictly poetry and spoken word. And no, I never did anything over music. It was strictly a cappella. And a lot of the times, I don't like using a microphone because I don't like how I sound on a microphone. So majority of the time, I don't even use a microphone when I'm performing. But when I met my husband, when I first met my husband 2 years ago, which we weren't married then, of course, he tried really hard to get me to perform over music, and it was just something that I wasn't comfortable with. I didn't know how to do, so I never got the opportunity to do that. But it is something that I'm interested in now. I think now I'm a little bit more comfortable with pushing myself to do some things outside of the box.
Well, certainly you spoke about the creativity and where it spawned from when you were a young girl and then when you were a teenager. How do you come up with your material now as a wife and a mother, an entrepreneur?
Well, now it's, the funny thing about it is that it's a little bit more challenging. My responsibilities as a woman altogether have changed. So I don't get the time that I wish I had to do a lot of those things because I don't pick up a pen and paper and write. I never was that kind of Well, initially when I started writing, that's how I would write. I would write everything down on paper first. But what I do is I usually just get this feeling. It's kind of like the spirit just hits me, and I get a creative idea, and I run with it. And I usually am. It's kind of like a freestyle. I'll freestyle a poem from the top of my head, and then I'll go back and write it so that way I could, have it on paper. And I usually don't forget it, but at least having it on paper, I can publish it or do whatever I choose to do with it after the point. But usually I'm in a room, all by myself, and it's almost like I'm on stage or I'm in front of an audience, and I really will freestyle, and that's how I come up with the actual lyrics. And usually I'm inspired by whatever God puts into my heart. I can never just pick a subject. I can never just pick a topic. Something usually hits me, and it's really strong. And whatever it is, I'll go from there, and I'll begin to just freestyle and create something beautiful.
Wow. So it's sort of like a download for you. It just
yes,
comes
exactly.
comes from outside of you, and then there it is. Here you are speaking these words. That's
right.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. Now, I guess you know what the next question is. Oh, come on, girl. Go.
Is it about my book? I'm thinking that it's about my book.
Well, what I'm going to ask you to do is give us a little freestyle right now. You knew I was going to ask you to do that.
I did, and you know what? I have my fingers crossed. I'm like, I hope she doesn't, because I am so not. You know what? I can't. I just, that's one of the things that I've never been able to do. I've never been able to, do a freestyle off the top, because I'm just not, like I say, it's usually something that has to come to me. I have to be really, really in a creative space and in a creative mode to just do something like that, which I feel is the reason why, as I grew older, I realized, like, you're not a rapper. You would totally not even be fit to be a rapper, which I don't even know where that came from when I was smaller. But no, I'm sorry. You'll have to check out the website. There will be some snippets there, and if you want to hear some of my work, that's where you'll be able to find some footage, and of course, the book that'll be available on the website too.
Oh, wonderful. Well, please share that website with us so that everyone can go over and listen and really get a feel for those downloads.
Thank you. The website is allthingspoetic.com, and it's really simple. It's just kind of like my slogan, that I'm running with, all things poetic. And like I said, you can go there to the website, and there'll be a couple snippets. There's my new book that I recently put out a few weeks ago. And then if you sign up to join my mailing list, you'll find out what's going on, what's happening with me in the near future. And I like to spoil my followers with other snippets and things that they'll get to see and also listen to as well.
Oh, beautiful. Well, you mentioned that you really have to be in a creative space and that it's inspiration from God. God just gives you. Does it come in words? Does it come in images? How does it show up for you?
Yeah, it comes definitely in words. First it's just an initial a thought that would come out of literally nowhere. I'll be giving a subject or an idea that like I said, I don't control. It just comes out of nowhere, and it's like a bright idea, like a light bulb that just turns on, and then that's it. I'm usually I run from there, because one thing about when you're a creative person, you have to get it out. You're so excited about whatever this idea is, and you're scrambling to get it out, and usually when I'm in that zone and when I'm in that place, I can go nonstop, and I can come up with a poem or write a poem or freestyle a poem so fast because my creative juices, they get flowing, and usually I'm in a space where I don't have to stop. I don't have any distractions, and I could really, really, really put my best energy forward.
Beautiful. Well, Lapriya, once again, you've astounded me. You are such a talented woman, and I do appreciate you sharing with everyone here on the Illuminations Media Network. Everybody, allthingspoetic.com. You definitely want to go right over and hear Lapriya, and I know that we're definitely going to have more conversations with Lapriya here on Soul Sounds. Artists who are expressing their unique creative patterns in these vibrations of sound, all in the key of soul. Lapriya, peace and blessings, and hopefully you'll come back soon, yes?
Oh, yes, I'll be back again. I love being on your show, and I really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Oh, awesome. You are so absolutely welcome. Well, everyone, thank you once again. And remember, as Lapriya said, let those downloads come right in and make sure that you express them, because if you don't, they're going to bother you until you do. And recognize that you do have a creative pattern that is unique. It's unique among everyone in the world. And you've got things that you must express like no one else can. Take good care. This is Tamara Tiesa, your host from the Illuminations Media Network, Soul Sounds.
Enjoyed what you heard? Catch the Members Only podcast simply by subscribing